my Lord, bring me a higher love. Oh, oh, higher love. I keep thinking of
The 49ers win the NFC Championship game.
Kansas City is the AFC champion. They are headed to Miami for Super Bowl 54.
bring me a higher love. Oh.
The most recent line has Kansas City favored by only a point, so if the Super Bowl goes down to the wire as expected, we all know Patrick Mahomes can put up points, but what about the Niners? But when you look at the numbers here, guys, when trailing, they're pretty comparable for Jimmy G as well. Obviously, in this last game, we know it was all Raheem Mostert with the 4 TDs, and Jimmy G only threw 77 yards. But pretty surprised when I see when trailing, they're fairly similar there. Dominique Foxworth joining the conversation. Always good to see you.
Great to be here. What's up, man? What's happening?
Max, let me ask you this. If it is that kind of situation, high-scoring game, they get behind, do you trust Jimmy Garoppolo?
I do. And that doesn't mean I'm picking them to win. We're going to make our picks, in the next couple days. Look, Jimmy G, best passer rating when trailing. Look at the fourth quarter comebacks. He does all that stuff. It's different this time because it's not just like he's doing it in a vacuum. He's competing with Patrick Mahomes, the best I've ever seen. So it makes it harder to keep up because you can do everything right, and then Mahomes can just do something that no one else can, including Jimmy G. But that's not the question. The question is, do I trust Jimmy G in a high-scoring game? Yes, because one of the reasons he's 23-5, the best winning percentage ever through this number of starts in his career, it's not just that he's been lucky to be with Bill Belichick and Kyle Shanahan. It's not just, look, that they wanted him, that Belichick wanted him, that Shanahan wanted him. It's that he has a quality about him that he's a do-what-you-need-him-to-do quarterback. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, maybe Dak Prescott, we'll see. There's some guys who strike you as the type. You need them to game manage, they'll game manage. We need something else now. Can you rise as the pressure mounts? The answer is yes. As more is asked of him, he delivers more. That doesn't mean that he'll out-duel Patrick Mahomes. I don't think anyone ever is capable of doing that. But do I trust him when you need to score? Yes, I do. He's proven it. He's shown it under pressure. Everyone brings up the Kittle pass. Yes, that was partly Kittle, but that gave them home field. Maybe they're not here. And Kittle is one of the all-time great plays, but still, it was a great pass, great play. Maybe they're not here if they have to go to Green Bay, which if he doesn't make that play, they do. Mm-hmm. I do trust Jimmy G.
I'm glad you do. I'm not there. That's number one. Number two, I would like you to personally do me a favor, please. Please stop acting like the 49ers moved heaven and earth to get Jimmy Garoppolo, who would not have taken a guy that started out 7-0 in his career as a starter.
Well, he was 2-0 when they traded for him.
I'm sorry, 2-0 as a starter, and then he went 5-0 with San Francisco. But he started off 2-0. He had been playing for Bill Belichick. He was Belichick's heir apparent. And oh, by the way, because I'm upset that Mr. Robert Kraft said I can't trade Tom Brady, I'm going to sit up there and trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round pick when Cleveland was begging for him and would have gave up the number 12 overall pick for him. Stop acting like the 49ers.
Cleveland fired Belichick.
I'm just saying, stop acting like the 49ers. Oh, my God, they wanted him so desperately. You know what? You'd have a good point if they were willing to give him a first-round pick for him.
They gave him $137 million.
Oh, no, that was
they didn't move heaven and earth.
No,
the point is you said they moved heaven and earth.
Right.
As a second-round pick.
I said they moved heaven and earth.
Yeah, you did. That's literally the words you said. You said they moved heaven and earth.
100. Right. They made him. They not only traded a second-round pick, they paid him like a franchise quarterback.
Max, we know him. 137.5 million.
And they're in the Super Bowl.
72 million guaranteed. We're aware, Max. But they gave him a second-round pick and then paid their own quarterback. So what? Here's the deal. In the end, did you know this? That with the exception of the 349 yards that Jimmy G had passing in that 48-46 win over New Orleans, did you know the only time he threw for over 300 yards was against Arizona? In the two games against Arizona. At no other time did he do that.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is with George Kittle as your weapon. This is with Deebo Samuel as your weapon. Now, Monster, we didn't know that he was going to be what he is, and I give you that. And they didn't have Emmanuel Sanders until the second half of the season. We get that. But you got George Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel, right? Got Kyle Shanahan calling plays, got an offensive line that protects you. You got a defense that gives you mass opportunities to capitalize
off
of it.
He's got a great tight end and good receivers.
No. What I'm saying to you is that but he also has a great defense that gives him the ball with enough opportunities and not under pressure to produce because they're doing what they're doing.
Tom Brady had the last couple
all
of
I'm
years.
trying to say to you, Tom Brady didn't have this defense. All I'm saying to you is that at the end of the day, Jimmy G, high-scoring game.
So, like,
Can I just give one thing perspective? I get the passing yards. He's 12th in passing yards, but he's 5th in passing touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, he has 3+ games with. I mean, he has 3 games with 3+ passing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes just has 6. It's not that different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't want to pretend like he's not a good quarterback.
I'm not saying he isn't.
We all, to be clear, we all think he's a good quarterback.
He is good.
And I think he's capable of winning in that situation. Do I trust him or do I feel confident? No. And part of your argument is suggesting that because Belichick believed in him and because Shanahan was able to pay or was willing to pay so much money, him and Lynch were willing to pay so much money, that contract was a unique contract. It was front-loaded literally because they did not trust him and they did not believe in him. And the way that they've treated him so far in his playoffs suggests to me that they do not trust him. And he showed them why, where he's thrown balls that should have been intercepted.
A couple bad throws.
And weren't. So and I think part of this we're talking about, we all accept that something's different about the playoffs. We haven't seen him do it in the playoffs. Something's different about the teams you're playing in the playoffs, the level of game playing that goes in the playoffs, and the pressure in the playoffs. All the things that we're pointing to, saying that we know he can do it because of all of these things, we have not seen him do any of that in a playoff, that type of pressure situation. And you're saying that you trust him to do it for the very first time in the biggest game of his career? That's where I have a hard time.
I've seen him,
I think he's capable, but I'm not going to say that I trust him, that I think he's more likely than not to succeed in that situation.
You have to, right, but that's what we're really asking. Like,
right, I think he's
in the end, you got to. You have to make a bet.
Right.
Where do you bet? I think he's more likely. The New Orleans game is a good example. Where I've seen him in high leverage moments, you're right, he threw a couple passes that should have been picked, and they haven't had him throwing a lot of balls since then. I get that. And by the way, that's Shanahan's kind of signature. He goes with the hot hand. He rides the moment. But Jimmy G could easily, if they need him to throw the ball, he's going to throw the ball. And then the question is, do you believe he'll be successful? I do.
Well, listen, if I believe he's going to be successful, it's because I have little faith in Kansas City's defense. That might be, and I think they've improved, but I'm saying that that's the question mark to me. But I've said it before, and I think I've been validated in these playoffs by saying this. You think about 4 different layers of the San Francisco 49ers before you even get to their star quarterback. You got your defensive line led by Bosa. You've got your secondary led by Sherman. You got your running game with Mostert and Tevin Coleman. You got Kyle Shanahan and his play calling. I'm just saying that you look at San Francisco, the balanced, well-balanced team that they are.
Well, how would you explain this then?
Yes.
How would you explain this? And this is a super small sample size, but Garoppolo was 2-0, Brissett was 1-1. That's very small. Then he goes to San Francisco, they're 5-0. Then he gets hurt. What are they, 4-12? Then he comes back, they're 13-3. It's not just that he has this incredibly excellent winning record, the best ever through this number of games. It's that absent him, and you would think if you're not elite, right? If you're not, then it's easier to find a replacement for you. They can't find a win, and with him, they almost can't lose.
But that's 2 different questions, though. Is he a franchise quarterback, or should he be the starter? Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the different question from do we expect him in the biggest game of his life with the pressure on in the fourth quarter? Is he more likely than not to succeed in that moment?
But what does succeed mean? Does that mean beat Mahomes?
No,
or does that mean be able,
win the game.
Okay.
Win the game,
when you say trust, it's like I think of Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago. Dak was hopelessly behind, but he brought him right back into the game.
Yeah.
And it's not like you, after that game, you'd say, I don't trust Dak. He didn't get it done. It's that Rodgers did stuff that you can't account for.
Right. But
so I could see him losing and still afterwards saying, no, Garoppolo had a really good game.
After that game in Dak's rookie year, I was like, oh, man. You can trust that guy.
Yeah.
We haven't had that moment for
so the question
Garoppolo
is,
yet.
how do you feel? Do you believe
No,
it or not?
I feel it's a tough thing to do. And so far, what I've seen from Jimmy Garoppolo is he's a slightly above average quarterback. He's not like a legendary guy like we're talking about Mahomes. And I think that it's more likely likely that a quarterback is going to fail in that situation. So I think since he is
me
around the
tell you
middle,
what
it's
23
more
and 5
likely that
tells
he
me.
will fail than not.
Let me tell you what 23 and 5
Last
tells
word
me,
here.
particularly when you're missing, they have an awful record. You have the best record ever when you're there, and when you're missing, one of the worst,
Yeah.
right? That tells me that you do what the team needs you to do. If the team, including fourth quarter drives, including what his QBR is when they're behind, and game with, like,
Right.
he does what you need him to do.
I think it comes down to like 50-50, close to 50-50. It's a coin toss whether he's going to be able to accomplish it or not. And I think that he's slightly below that. He's at 48,
He's
49,
above it.
and you think he's above
I'll put
it.
him at 52,
I know, we're
53.
not, we're not that far
No.
apart.
Maybe
No.
that's why
Better.
it opened up as a pick 'em. We'll leave it there. Nick,
Yeah.
you'll be back with us a bit later in the show.
can't wait.
Still to come, a little NBA, fellas. The Clippers and Mavs went down to the wire. Anybody like the number 13?